Hopefully I can get all of them on here. Oh, that's one that I didn't cut. I'll cut that in a minute. Forgot to do that one. So here's this, like this. So there they are all laid out, and I'm gonna put this on top of here. And then you're gonna pound them. Now, I have this handy dandy little tool. It's a meat pounder, but you don't have to use this. You can use, I'll show you, a frying pan like this. That pounds just fine. You can use any heavy thing to pound it. And this is a really good, so I'm pounding, I don't want these to be paper thin. So I'm really just pounding them a little bit. Any place that feels thicker than another place, I give that a little bit of an extra whack.
I think like a 1/2 inch you try to get it to?
I'll show you. I don't think that's even a 1/2 inch.
A 1/4 inch maybe.
Yeah, about a 1/4 inch. You know, you can do what I'm going to do to these chicken breasts with an uncut chicken breast, boneless chicken breast. You don't have to make it thin like this. It's just that you'd have to cook it differently, longer, and bake it longer, but it would be delicious also. But we make chicken cutlets. So there are some more chicken cutlets. I have one more to do here. Let me just get this out of the way and I'll do the one more so I don't have one lone chicken breast left over. Being a little sloppier, cutting off pieces here.
Anything you can do with those trimmings?
That's what I said. I put them in a bag into the freezer. And when I make soup, I brown them in the bottom of the pan with the onions and stuff, and it adds flavor makes nice broth. So again, find the thickest part of the breast and then put the knife in there and start cutting so that you're butterflying through the thickest, down through the thinner part, and you're trying hard not to cut through it so that you have, but you know, chicken meat, I can spread this with my hand. See that? So I could even pound that out. It would make a gigantic cutlet, but you could do that too. So there I have 2 pieces. I'm gonna give these a little pound, and then we're gonna go over and saute them. I think in probably every culture, there's some kind of cutlet-like thing, you know, like schnitzel and what else?
You don't have that pounding tool. Can you use like a rolling pin or something?
You could use a rolling pin, a frying pan, the heavy end of a frying pan. Any frying pan would do a good job. Could use a hammer if you don't have anything else. Okay, I got all that garbage out of the way. So now we're gonna move the computer. I'm gonna wash my hands and we're gonna move the computer over to the stove and we're gonna saute these. So let me just get you over to my stove. See where the best place is to put you, I think here.
If anybody has any questions, you could pop it into the chat on the bottom. You'll see there's a little indicator for chat. If you click on that, you can post your questions, and when she's kind of taking a breath, I'll pose the question.
Okay, so I'm going to use this large pan. You see it is not a non-stick pan, and the reason it's not a non-stick pan is that you want to have the stuff that gets stuck on the bottom of the pan. So I heat the pan first and let the pan get heated up. And I use a combination of vegetable or canola oil and olive oil. I don't use only olive oil because first of all, it's a lot more expensive, and also it burns faster. So I add a little bit of the canola oil in order to thin it out a little bit. And what else I have on my tray here is some Pinot Grigio. In the email I sent, I added some other suggestions of dry wines that you can use. You would not want to use an oaky wine like Chardonnay. And I have heavy whipping cream, but you can also use half and half. And I had an idea today. You cannot use milk because milk will curdle and it doesn't do what needs to happen. But I wonder if you could use condensed milk instead of heavy cream if you didn't have it. So the pan is heated up a little, and now I'm going to put some olive oil in.
Hey, Ma, what temperature is that pan at?
It's high. It's up top.
Or like medium high?
Well, oh, see, you made me think. Oh, sorry, I picked up the wine instead of the oil.
It's all right. That happens. You just dump it out. It's fine.
I just dumped it out. Just a second. I was answering questions and not thinking. Let me get that out of there. I don't want that in there.
So I think you probably heat it to medium high is my guess. High, you'll probably.
I want the cutlet. When I put that cutlet in there, I want it to sizzle. So that's why I heat the pan first.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that oil, and here's my olive oil. And I'm going to wait until that's pretty hot.
Also, you have some concerned fans about your scarf lighting on fire.
And I also just remembered something that I didn't do. So I'm going to shut this off, and we're going to go back over here because I forgot to show you something critical. Wait a second. Not so organized. Let me get you back here. Once you've made those chicken cutlets, the next important thing you have to do, this is a pan with breadcrumbs in it. This is a pan with flour in it. And this is a pan that has eggs. And I've mixed into the eggs. There's about 4 eggs in here. And it's got parsley in it. It's got Parmesan cheese, which I grated before. So like that. And parsley. And salt and pepper. That's what's in these eggs. And I'll show you the order in which things are going to get done. There's my 3 pans lined up. Flour first, breadcrumbs next, and then eggs last. There you go, like that. All right, let me get a dish. So I'm going to take the chicken cutlet, and you try to have a wet hand and a dry hand. So this is my wet hand. And I'm going to put it in the flour, just kind of bang it around in there. And then it's going to go into the egg like this. And then the last thing it's going to do is to go into the breadcrumbs. And when it's in the breadcrumbs, you're going to do this. You're trying to get those breadcrumbs all scooted around in there. And you pank on it so that they're covered like that. And it'll go on my dish here. So flour first. Just a little bit of flour. And then into the seasoned eggs. Like that. And then into the breadcrumbs. And these are just plain breadcrumbs. You can buy seasoned ones if you want, but I figure since I'm seasoning the eggs, I don't need to have seasoned breadcrumbs. There they are. So like that. Flour, egg, and breadcrumbs.
How much parm did you put in the flour, Mom?
I didn't put the parm in the flour, I put the parm in the eggs.
How much parm did you put in the eggs?
Probably, I used Grandma's method. I went like this, watch, like that, till it looked good to me. Probably half a cup.
I was gonna say 4 tablespoons.
Well, I think more. I think more. It's thick and egg, and it's got a lot of cheese in there. You can't put, it would be hard to put too much cheese. And, people ask me for amounts, and it's hard because I sometimes will make 2 batches rather than make 1 big batch of the eggs and 1 big batch of the, dump all the flour in. I do it twice because the the flour and the breadcrumbs are going to get clumpy from having the egg put into it.
Can I
So-
ask a question?
Sure.
I stepped away for a second. This is Judith. Where do the parsley goes in with the eggs and the parm goes in with?
The eggs.
Oh, also with the eggs. Okay, thanks.
You're making a seasoned egg. And salt and pepper too. But be careful with the salt because the Parmesan is salty. And I had just said that you want to sometimes change the breadcrumbs out. So don't start with too many because they get clumped. And then it clumps up on the cutlet, and then the cutlet has things that burn on it. So,
Hey, Julia, if your screen keeps going to another one, if you kind of hover over my mom's screen, you can pin that screen. So that's all you'll see. So like it's pinned for me. I put my cursor over the little square that has her video, and I said pin video. But everybody except for me is muted, so we should be good. Who's Mapsar? Is that Aunt Mimi?
yeah, Mimi.
She's raised her hand in a way that I didn't know that you could on this. Aunt Mimi, do you have a question?
That's my sister who makes chicken cutlets every bit as wonderful as any that I'll ever make. I forgot to put flour on this one, so we're just going to put it right in the breadcrumbs. Hey, Mary.
We've got somebody also social distancing while
That's
also.
my sister who's got a mask on. Are you out walking and that's why you have your mask on? I think that's why.
Yeah, she must be out walking.
Okay.
I mean,
Right.
I'm gonna lower your hand, so if you do have a question, you could raise it again.
Now I did everything that I was supposed to do before I went over to the stove. So now I'm just going to get rid of this whole mess here. One more to bread. Wash my hands again and then get us over to the stove. This is why I need somebody here to be a
What's Dad?
Somebody want to come help me?
What's Dad doing?
Oh, no. No, I sent him away.
Oh, well, that's on you.
I know. Well, he helped me last time. That's why I sent him away. Okay, I'm going to wash my hands. I'll be right there.
Somebody said instead of cream, they use condensed milk. That is a great idea. Didn't Grandma put condensed milk in her coffee?
Sometimes she did. She used to make instant coffee years ago. So
With carnation condensed milk, I think.
yeah.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
I can.
I think, did you mean evaporated milk? Because condensed milk is really, really sweet.
Well, there's sweetened condensed milk. And
Yeah, I can't remember now if it was evaporated milk or condensed milk. I remember it was in a can.
Yeah, they're both in a can.
I know that for sure. But,
It's evaporated milk.
and
Yeah.
she also used Senka instant coffee. She was a surprising woman. Despite all the homemade food, she had a couple of things that were super jarred and canned in Americana.
It came out of the war, the evaporated milk,
Mm.
when fresh milk wasn't so available.
She also made Jell-O with fruit in it. I just don't understand that at all.
she did do that. Okay, so here we are back with the Pinot Grigio and the heavy whipping cream. You can also use half and half, but not milk. And we were discussing before whether the possibility of evaporated milk might be a substitute for whipping cream, and I'm not sure. So I let this oil get hot enough so that when I do this, it's sizzling in there, and I think it needs just a little bit more.
Hey, Mike. Mike said we're searing it because we're going to bake it after. Yeah, you're just going to brown both sides, and then you, once you put the deliciousness over it, you're going to bake it in a baking dish. But she'll go through that. So it's not cooked all the way through in the pan.
Yeah, and I have 2 trays of it over there that I cooked earlier. See, now that oil could have been hotter, I don't know if you can, it's just now starting to sizzle. And the reason I want it to be hot is that I don't want the oil to, I don't want it to be greasy. So now it's doing what it's supposed to do, kind of sizzling around the edges there. And I'm not going to crowd the pan. That's why these take forever. I'm probably going to put one more in here. So we only have, you know, another small batch of this to do before we're ready to deglaze the pan. So I'm going to let those brown. It's up at high. You just have to watch it really carefully because it's looking like, it doesn't look like it's doing anything. So I watch it underneath.
And how long on each side, Ma?
I don't know, a couple minutes, 3 minutes, until it's a nice golden brown. And then the second side gets a little less time because again, you don't want to cook these all the way through.
And you see that pan is open. So if you have one of those like screen covers for your pan, that will prevent you from burning yourself when that oil starts popping.
Yeah, but.
Which I did the last time I made these.
I mean, it's not really popping. A little bit.
Your oil's still on high?
The oil's on high, extra high actually. See the pot, see the gas?
Mm-hmm.
It's on high. So that's okay. That one I want a little bit more. That's okay.
So it's kind of a golden brown with like little darker brown spots?
Yeah, like that. That's pretty perfect. Like that. You can hear the oil now. But I'll tell you, you know, you think it's taking a little bit longer now than you might think. But you walk away for 2 seconds and you'll come back and they'll be burned. So you sort of have to stay on top of it when you're doing it. Same is true of the eggplant, which we're going to do next.
What kind of pan are you using, Mom? And is a cast iron pan okay?
I've never used a cast iron pan because I don't know how that behaves with wine. But I usually use these stainless steel pans and never a nonstick pan.
Yeah, you might not want to do a cast iron one because if you put the wine on, it's acid, and then you're supposed to be deglazing the pan afterwards, and then you'd be scraping up your cast iron.
See, I'm putting these on a piece of paper towel because I want to get all the excess oil off it. And I'm going to put the last 3 in. Like that. And this one's probably ready to come out. It is. So this one.
One question is, how fine should the Parmesan be grated? We use the finest setting on your box grater.
Yeah, I use one of these microplanes.
Yeah.
That.
Scott Hershkowitz, somebody really enjoys, Teresa Walden really enjoys your light fixture.
My light fixture?
Not yours, Scott.
Oh, Scott's. Okay. See, that one's done. And that's done.
Angela?
Yeah?
Hey, how much wine did you add to the pan?
I haven't added the wine yet.
Oh, okay.
I made a mistake before and I added wine when I shouldn't have. I was meaning to add oil. The wine is going to go next.
Okay, okay.
Okay?
Thanks.
You ever add any butter when you're frying it, Mom, or just those 2 kinds of oil?
I do not, but I'll tell you something. When you deglaze this pan and put the wine in there, if you add, I'll show you when, if you add a couple of pats of butter right before you put the heavy cream in, it would make a delicious sauce. And probably if you don't have heavy cream and you just deglaze the pan with white wine and then you put butter in that would be delicious too. Okay, so see how much faster these got done? Because the oil is a lot hotter now. So those are all done. And now I have a lot of oil in this pan, which I'm going to dump into the sink because I do not want that oil in the pan. So let me dump this out. . So now I have a pan that's got no oil in it, or a little tiny bit maybe, and some brown bits from the breadcrumbs. And I'm even gonna let that, I'm letting those get a little browner. And I'll measure if you want, but I don't measure usually. I just do this. It's really steaming. So I'd say that's a good cup of white wine in there. And I've got the heat up high, and I am just gonna let that white wine boil away. I'm really trying to reduce it. I'm gonna reduce it by at least half. So, and you know, I wouldn't be shy about this, because this sauce, when you drizzle it on the chicken cutlets, what happens when you put it in the oven is that the chicken cutlets absorb this wine and cream, and that is what makes them so delicious and lush. So it's different from regular chicken cutlets, which, you know, I think they can be dry sometimes, and you have to put, you know, that might help a little bit. Does that make it better or worse? Having the light on. See how it's getting darker brown? And it's reducing.
You scraping the bits?
Say it again. The bits are already in there. You know,
Scraping the pan?
Yeah, they're in the pan. It's floating around.
But do you scrape it with like a spatula?
Well, if they were stuck to the bottom, I would have. When I poured the wine in, I would have scraped them up to get them into the wine, but they were not stuck. I didn't burn anything today. Doesn't hurt to burn it a little bit, to burn one of them a little bit, so you have some bits of brown stuff in there. So that's probably down to about a half a cup now, maybe a little bit more. See it? And now I am going to take a spatula, this, and I am just going to do this. And I don't know, I put probably a third of a cup in just then, and I want to incorporate this in here. Right before I put that cream in, if I had put a couple of pats of butter in, I would have melted the butter into the wine, and that would have already been a kind of thickened sauce. So I'm going to put a little bit more here because I want to have a little bit more. A little bit more. I'm not seasoning it at all because it's already, you know, it's got the breadcrumbs that were in the bottom there that seasoned it, and so I don't add anything else to this. And I'm just going to reduce this until the cream is a little thicker. They say until, you know, it coats the spoon, or until I can see that it's thick on the bottom of the pan. It's not quite there yet. I made some before when I made a whole bunch before. So this is what was left. This is what I got out of the pan before. And I'm just going to add this. And this actually is thick. I actually have to kind of beat it around to get rid of all the thick kind of curdy like stuff. So that's about where I'm going with this. You see how it's kind of coating the bottom of the pan now? I can make a line through it and the line stays separated. That's done. And now what I want to do is to get this in that Pyrex pan. And I have to use two hands to do this because it's heavy. So I'm just going to dump this into that pan. Into the Pyrex measure. So there's that. I would actually scrape up the bottom of that frying pan to get all that stuff out of there because all the goodness is in the bottom of that. So now I'm shutting off the gas. And you see I've got this. And now we're going to go over to the table again so I can show you how it gets layered. Move over here. Again. Oh, get all this stuff out of the way.
Ma, do you ever put lemon in the sauce?
Not in this. Good. So this is how many I have. This is the pan I'm going to use. I want you to notice this chicken cutlet.
Hey, Dad.
It was not like that when I put that in the pan.
Yep. Yeah, it's sort of your fault. You make them so delicious.
Okay, so now we have all of these, and I'm gonna make a first layer just in the bottom of a pan like this. And you don't wanna lay them too much on top of one another. You want them like that. And then you're gonna take this, and you have to kind of judge, how much you're gonna put on each layer. I'm gonna have at least 3 layers in here. So I wanna be judicious about, I'm just pouring a little bit of this onto the cutlets, like that. See? And then we're gonna go the other way and put another layer in like this, and like this. Now these are practically cooked. So when you put them in the oven now, they don't need very long in there. You're just wanting all the flavors to get amalgamated, and you're heating it because I made these before. So there's a second layer, and we're gonna
20 minutes, Ma?
what?
We're like 20 minutes in the oven.
20 minutes, and I cover it.
Here's a fun fact. There is no such thing as too much of that sauce. If you want to like double that and pour it over the chicken, it is delicious.
So the last 3 will go on top like this. And then I'm just gonna pour all the rest of that in there, however much I have. And I'm actually gonna scrape out every bit of it onto there, like that. So that is it. And I'm gonna cover this with tin foil. Let me get my tin foil.
So a couple questions. Scott wants to know if you have printed these instructions somewhere or you've written them up that you could share.
I will.
And
Yes, I
then
did.
and Mitch Palmer says, why is my sauce so thin? You just need to keep cooking it, like heat it up more until it thickens.
You're really gonna boil that. After you add the cream, Mitch, just keep boiling it because that cream will boil down. And be careful not to burn it. So there it is. And that's gonna go into that 350 oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. Okay, and so we'll take this out. You'll be able to see it finished, I think. Okay. Get rid of all this stuff. And these are the eggplants. Now, I already did this tray. So these are already breaded and sauteed. And I saved some eggplant because I want to show you how I cut it. You see this lethal piece of equipment? This is a really, really cheap mandolin. I have expensive ones. This is an OXO one that you can buy for, I don't know, $6 or $7. Not quite good enough for eggplants because the eggplants are too wide for it. This is a really handy tool. You can change the thickness of the cuts by changing this. This is a lethal weapon. That blade can cut your finger off. So it comes with a tool like this that you use to engage whatever you're cutting on it. And I urge you to use it, although I sometimes don't, which is a bad thing to do. But I'll show you what the eggplants are like. So over here, this was one of the eggplants. My friend Antoinette, who makes probably the best eggplant parmesan in the world, never peels her eggplant, washes it really well. I sometimes peel it in stripes. I don't know why I do this, but I sometimes do this with it. So I don't peel all the skin off, but I go down with the vegetable peeler and I take stripes of the peel off. So this is what you do. Now, when you've got a big thing like this, you don't need this. It's only later. And this thing comes out. I'm saying this, I know a lot of you know this, but this thing comes out. And if I flip this over, it makes thinner slices, and then there are others that make different kind of slices. But basically you take the vegetable or fruit or wherever you're cutting, and you just go like that. And see, look, it cuts perfect slices every time. So these are relatively thin. When you go into a restaurant and order eggplant parmesan, a lot of times the eggplant is way thicker than this. And I don't like it way thicker than this. So that's how I make it. So That's what I do. And see how easy it is? And when it gets, see that one ripped a little bit, but when it gets down to where you're kind of near the edge of this, then you would push this into this and use this so that your hands are all the way. And you always want to keep your palm, not your fingers grabbing it like this, because your fingers, that would be a very bad thing. So I don't think I'm going to go through the process again, but basically this, I did the same thing with those slices. I dipped them first in some flour, and then in some seasoned egg, and then into breadcrumbs. Now in Italy, a lot of times, they do not do this breading. And the dish that's called melanzane parmigiano in Italy, I cut some eggplant the way those recipes ask you to cut it, and I'll show you how they do it. Now, this Parmesan recipe, I'm going to show you how I've made this, and then I'm going to tell you an eggplant story. So when they're like this, you need another dish like this. And you can do exactly what I did with the chicken. You can put these, lay these, these have sauce on them. So here's the sauce. I made spaghetti sauce, pasta, you know, red sauce. And I would put a layer of sauce, and then you would just layer these, and then a layer of sauce and some shredded mozzarella in between. Not clumps of mozzarella, not thick slices of it, because it never melts, and then you end up with a piece of rubber. This will melt and make this delicious stringier stuff, which is what you want. So you can do it that way, but one time when I was making these, I decided to do something a little special, and I'll show you what I tried to do.
Wait, Ma, before you tell the story, do you ever use the deglazed cream sauce on these, like the chicken?
I have never done that, but I think you probably could make a somewhat thicker slice of eggplant, because you need more meat with it, I think, and do that. I think it would be delicious.
I agree.
If for people, you know, if you want a vegetarian dish that's loaded with calories. Just saying. So here I am putting down a layer of sauce. And what I did this one time, because I was trying to be a little fancy, I was invited to, when we first came up here, we met a group of people, wonderful people, and we used to play poker with these people every Saturday night. And it was a really terrific poker game where you didn't have to have, you could only have $5, and if you lost your money, you were considered to be on welfare, and somebody else would bet for you. And it was a lot of fun. We had fun. And it was always a potluck supper. So I decided to fancy these eggplants up a little bit and bring them to the supper. So what I did was I took a slice like this, and then I took some ricotta like this. And I put a tiny bit of ricotta on the eggplant like that. And then I put a little bit more sauce like this. And then another slice of eggplant and another little bit of ricotta like that, ricotta. And finally, I would try to find, you know, a smaller slice and put it on top. So I made little piles like this, like that. And then I put sauce on them. And that's actually what I'm going to do with each of these today. I'm going to make a series of three-layer things. I'm going to do this because I'm going to share these with my neighbors, and it makes single slices. So it's just fun. So I did this. The day that I did this, it took me all day, as you might imagine, to make the sauce and the eggplant and to do this final preparation. And we were late getting out the door, Grant and I, to go to this party, poker party. So I had made, I'm going to look at you to tell you this story. I had made 2 trays of this stuff, 2 huge trays of them. And I was rushing because I was late. We have an upside down house, so you have to go downstairs to get out of the house. And I said to my husband, I said, I'm really got to go get myself cleaned up. Would you take these 2 trays out to the car? He said, sure. We had a station wagon. Station wagon was, the seats were down so he could lay the trays in the back of the station wagon. So he said, sure. And he went, and I got changed, and I got in the car. He was waiting for me in the driveway. I said, when I got in the car, I said, why am I smelling sauce? Did something fall? And he said, no, I just think fine. So we got to the house where we were going. And Grant's not usually one who opens the door for me, but this time he said to me, honey, you just go right in. You go get settled in and I'll take the trays in. So I did. I went in, I sat at the table and he took the trays in there. There was a kind of buffet table with things that everybody had brought. And my 2 trays were on there. And so the first tray came out and everybody ate. It went really fast. They're delicious. So the first tray was gone and I got up and I went to get the other tray. And it looked a little messy, but I thought I must have gotten jiggled in the car. So I kind of straightened it out and I brought it to the table. My friend Bridget took a serving, one of those 3 pile things, and she took a bite. And then I see Bridget going like this and taking things out of her mouth and putting them on her plate. And what she was taking out of her mouth were pebbles. Pebbles. My driveway is a gravel driveway, loose gravel. So Bridget in her mouth had maybe 8, maybe 10 pebbles, which she carefully took out one at a time, putting them on the plates. And I was horrified. And I looked at Grant and he was looking really sheepish. And I said to him, how could you? And you know what he said to me? He said, I didn't think anybody would notice. So what he had done was he had dropped the whole tray in the driveway. And in the dark, he had picked up those piles. He had picked them up with his hand and kind of stuck them back in the tray and sort of, straightened them out like that. And then put that tray in the car.
It's totally logical.
It's very logical, very logical. Yes, yes. I never trusted him to take anything out to the car again. So this is what I'm doing. A little bit of sauce, a little bit of this, and then a final thing
Does
like
it matter how much you add of all that stuff, or you just
I'm just,
cover it?
yeah. And what I do at the end is I put a little dollop of ricotta like this.
Yeah, Mimi wants you to know that she's here. She just doesn't have any audio.
Oh, okay. So I put a little dollop like that on the top of each of them, and they're really pretty, and it's just very, very tasty. So I won't go through that whole tray like that, but I will when we're all gone. But that's a wonderful way to make eggplant parmesan. And if you don't want to be precious like this, you can just layer them. You can put little dollops of ricotta in between if you want to, and sauce on top of them. You don't have to have the ricotta, but it really adds a little something to the dish. If you haven't made sauce, you can use jarred sauce. I actually found this brand today called Pommi, Pommi, and they make, it's in a cardboard box, and they make a marinara sauce that was absolutely delicious. So you can do this very easily. The thing that takes the longest time is, of course, cutting the eggplants and then dipping them in the way that I had dipped those before. Now I'll show you the way they tend to do it in Italy. One more dish to show you, or 2 more actually. So this is a smaller pan. So see these eggplant? So instead of cutting them the round way, I cut them the long way. They're really thin. See how thin they are? And I sauteed them in a pan with a little bit of olive oil in them. I really just wanted to char them. So in Italy, they would put a little bit of sauce, again, in the bottom of this dish. And then like this. And then layer these onto that with some mozzarella in between. You can also, that other dish on the top, when you finish getting all the eggplant tears in there, you can add, you can sprinkle some mozzarella in between along with the ricotta or on top. But this would just get layered like this all through here with the sauce like this. And you can sprinkle Parmesan in here also. along with the mozzarella.
I feel like Antoinette doesn't add cheese. Am I wrong?
Antoinette doesn't add cheese to, she doesn't make it like this.
Not like
Antoinette,
that, but the other thing, I don't feel like she.
no, she never puts it out there. She would just put those, the round things of of eggplant and sauce. That's all.
Yeah, I don't even feel like there was Parmesan on it.
Yeah, she puts, I asked her today, she puts Parmesan in the eggs.
Oh, and the eggs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so there's like that. And then this would get a layer of mozzarella, like this. And then another layer of sauce, and then another layer of the eggplant, and then finally a layer of sauce. And that all of these would get baked, again, about 350. And what you're trying to do is just get everything amalgamated in there. So that's
eat all of this.
Hello.
Mimi, I can hear you.
Hi. I'm listening.
I was on my bike ride.
Oh, in the house?
No,
we saw, this is what,
I off the stand. I just saw it and I wrote.
I didn't do
yes, you
that.
did. You did so. Okay, one final thing. I had so much vegetable stuff left over. I'll show you what I made.
Uh-oh. All right, leftovers. Oh, look at all this yummies.
I bought a lot of eggplant because I couldn't find really good ones. So I went to I had eggplant from 3 different stores and I tried making it each way. So this is all cut up to make ratatouille. So I've got a dish of cubed eggplant here. And this is zucchini, dish of cubed zucchini, and a dish of yellow and red peppers cubed, and some onion sliced, and garlic, and salt and pepper, and a little bit of rosemary. And these are some kind of mouchade cherry peppers that I didn't use when I should have. So these,
for Italians.
Italian means mushy. These would go in a big sheet pan, like those sheet pans I've been using, and you roast them first. Some recipes tell you to roast each vegetable individually so that they don't get mixed together and they develop their own flavor, and then you mix them together and roast them together. But it's a really wonderful vegetarian dish. Goes with any kind of roast meat or all by itself. It's best in the summertime when the tomatoes are fresh and the eggplant is fresh eggplant and the zucchini is fresh zucchini from somebody's garden. But in the south of France, in the summertime, this dish, ratatouille, and you put olive oil on it and salt and pepper, and it's just delicious and yummy. So that's something else you can do with vegetables. So that's it for today. How long did I go? Almost an hour. Perfect.
5-2.
Anybody got questions, comments? Anybody bake any pies?
Mitch said, "What's up, Grant? Looking good."
Hey, what do you think?
And Aunt Mimi, your audio works now. You wanna say something? I'm gonna unmute you, Aunt Mimi.
Linda.
Hi.
Hi, Aunt Mimi.
I finally got it to work. I was watching you, but I didn't know what the hell you said.
You couldn't hear me either?
You couldn't hear?
Nope, I couldn't hear you, but now I can hear you. Hi,
Okay.
Pia.
You already know how to make these things, so it's okay.
Yes, I know, but it's fun to watch somebody else do it.
Mhm.
I don't like making eggplant. It's so much work,
Yeah, it is. All of
but
this.
I like eating it.
Mm.
But I do the cutlets the same way, so they're good. And the sauce too.
And the sauce, yeah. Same
Yes.
sauce. Sunday
Yes.
sauce, Saturday sauce.
Yes, yes. So it was very good. Very good. And all of a sudden, the audio came on. I didn't touch a thing. I didn't do a thing. All of a sudden, I could hear you.
Well, there you go.
So I don't know what the heck happens. But anyway, it was nice to see the last few minutes.
Good, good. Okay, everybody.
All right.
Rest of
Bye.
the day.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Don't forget, I want to see anything that you make. I want to see.
Thank you so much. This is awesome. We're literally, we're browning right now. So I'll let you know how it comes out.
All right.
Thanks,
Terrific.
thanks, Angela.
Angela,
Our
Angela, can you
cutlets are in the
also-
oven. We're having them for dinner. This is
Wow.
Judith.
Okay, Judith, terrific.
That was fun.
Angela,
Angela. Bye-bye.
can you send the recording like last time?
Yes, I recorded it. I hope I recorded it, and I'll make sure it gets posted. And I'm so glad to see everybody. Hi, Louise. I didn't even say hi to you.
Hi, yeah.
Hi.
Where's Louise?
She's up there, Louise.
Oh, for God's sake, Louise.
Hi, Angela.
Bye-bye.
How are you?
Bye, everybody. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
Bye,
If you make
Pia.
chicken ahead of time, how do you eat it?
Bye.
Angela,
What?
I have to get out.
Angela, if you make them ahead of time and
Yeah.
you refrigerate them, how should you reheat them?
Well, I would take them out of the refrigerator for a while before you're going to put them in the oven and kind of bring them to room temperature. Because I think if you put them in the oven cold, they probably won't absorb the sauce as well. I'm not sure because I've never done that. But my friend Antoinette said when she makes eggplant parmesan, she makes those little rings and she freezes them. She puts a tray in the freezer, freezes it, and then puts them in pack because when she makes them, she's like me, she's making hundreds of them. And you can't do it all at one time. And then she just takes them out of the freezer and she layers them. But I think with the chicken, you wouldn't want to be putting the chicken into the oven cold from the refrigerator. I think you would want to bring it to room temperature before you poured the cream onto it. And you're going to have to make that cream sauce while you're making the chicken cutlets because you have to deglaze the pan and put the cream in. And so you can make that and just set it aside, put it in the refrigerator because it's cream if you're going to do it many hours ahead. And then again, take it out and let it come to room temperature. You might even want to heat that cream sauce up a little bit so that it's warm when you're putting it on the chicken cutlets. And you might need a little bit more. You might also, when you put the chicken cutlets in, if you're taking them out and they're not room temperature, you might want to put a little water in the bottom of the pan so that the chicken cutlets steam a little bit from the water in the bottom of the pan. You might want to do that.
I gotta go work in the garden. Bye.
Okay. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Mike, I want to see what you're making. Don't forget.
I will post lots of pictures.
Okay, terrific. I got pictures to post too of steps